And out front now, Joan Walsh. She's the nation's national affairs correspondent, editor of the National Review. Rich Lowry, Paris Dennard, former White House Black Outreach Director for President George W. Bush. April Ryan's going to be joining us in just a moment, White House reporter for National Urban Radio Networks. Paris, let me start with you. How do you defend this?
I'm not here to defend it. I think it's hard to defend something that is unsubstantiated and based off of some...
I gotta jump in right here because that defense isn't going to work tonight, Paris. They're not denying it. And they denied everything else he said. They denied everything in the Michael Wolff book. They denied, when he said Nigerians lived in huts and all Haitians had AIDS. They denied those things. They're not denying this. There were a lot of people in the room. You can't hide behind that.
So thank you for your extended commentary, Aaron. But if you allow me to speak, I would say that just like the Michael Wolff book, you have people who are not coming out and saying that who they are. If this is what you think the president said, come out and say it. These White House staffers who allegedly said that this will resonate with the base, I think that's offensive, and I think that is just like the White House staffers who said things in the Wolff book to say things to derail this presidency, because the underlying assumption is that this president is a racist. The narrative that you're leading with today is that the president is somehow racist, and that the base is then racist, and the base will appreciate things that are racist. And I think that that's 100% false. And I would not have used those words if those words were used. But at the end of the day, the president is focused on getting a good deal for the American people.
Okay, stop there. I'm sorry. I want to just let April get a chance to get in here. April Ryan is with us. April, look, I just want to make it clear, because I'm going to keep making this clear. When he says he doesn't say something, they come out and deny it. They are not denying this.
Right.
By the way, Paris, I agree with you. I'd like the person to come out by name. I'd like people who are in that room to come out by name. I agree with you. But the bottom line is he said it, and he's not denying he said it. April.
And that's resounding for a president of the United States when he works with other countries to say things like this. Paris, if you say it's not racist, there's a racial tinge to it. And I talked to the NAACP, Hillary Shelton of the NAACP, who said when you look at the word racist and how it comes together, it's racial prejudice and power. And he said that begs the question of, was this a racist statement? Racial prejudice and power makes racism. That's what the NAACP says. So for a president of the United States who deals with other countries, and he's looked at as diplomatic, this was not diplomatic. This was ugly at its base, and it was just flat out wrong. We don't hear those kind of things from that office, the highest office in the land.
And that is the crucial point here, Rich. I also want to say, we talked about the condemnation. It is bipartisan, although I want to make the point, overwhelmingly more Democrats have come out. So far, Mia Love, Orrin Hatch have come out. We have heard absolutely nothing from Republican leadership so far. But I want to give the due to Senator Hatch. Quote, I look forward to getting a more detailed explanation regarding the president's comments. Part of what makes America so special is that we welcome the best and brightest in the world, regardless of their country of origin. And obviously you heard Mia Love's powerful comments. Here are two Democrats who have also spoken out on camera.
He does things that I never thought I would see come from the President of the United States. But this is extremely damaging, and it is a very, very hurtful.
We are traumatized as a nation about this president and how he behaves. He's certainly not behaving presidential.
This is just beneath the presidency, but also suggests he doesn't quite get what it is that really makes America great.
Okay, so that's three Democrats. We had two Republicans. We obviously have a lot more Democrats. Where's the Republican leadership?
Well, first of all, I have a worldwide exclusive for you tonight, Aaron. My understanding on the basis of a very good source, he didn't say S-hole, he said S-house. And people might have heard it as S-hole because S-house is a less frequently used term. Look, this is a vulgar way of speaking.
And obviously, just to make the point, you're not trying to say there's any difference between those two things.
No, I'm not.
He's saying we don't want people from those S-houses. Okay.
This is a vulgar way of speaking. You don't want the President of the United States to talk this way, especially if it's going to be repeated outside the room. But the level of freak out about this, I think, goes to just how the elite on both the right and the left of this country has gotten so disconnected from common sense on immigration. These countries he was referring to, they are basket cases. They are disaster areas. And the point he was making within the context of the immigration policy discussion is we'd be much better off with people with higher levels of education and skills.
I want to get to that point. I want to get to that point because there is a socioeconomic point here. But if you're going to say that, you need to answer to then why he said, I want more people from Norway.
You know why?
Unless he happens to know that there's a lot of Muslim
happened-
immigrants in
what happened
Norway.
this
I mean,
week-
maybe
what
he wants
happened this
them.
week that had something to do with Norway. The leader of Norway was here.
So it's the
And
last
they were
person in the
talking-
room kind of
And they were
thing.
talking about that
So
in
the
this
last
meeting.
white person in the room?
No, come on. Look, if we actually move to a system like they have in Canada and Australia, points-based, merits-based, skills-based, you're not going to get people from Norway. People from Norway don't want to come here because that country is not a basket case. You'll get more South and East Asians.
They did
so
come
that
here.
is not a
They did
racist
come here when they
policy.
were a basket case, and they moved to a big part of this country, in the Midwest of this country, and they have contributed
But also-
greatly.
When we had a different
and
kind
that
of
is what
economy.
happens.
When we had a different kind of economy, we
Okay,
had
but that is what
farming
happens. People
and
come
industry.
from countries, they join this country,
But
and they
the
make
problem.
it greater, whatever their
so
color.
many people, they're stuck in nostalgia on immigration policy, where they think it's just the early 20th century forever. You can have a lot of low-skilled people who want to work hard, and they'll be fine because there are endless manufacturing jobs for them. That's not the way the American economy
Joe,
works.
You know,
Go ahead.
you're really contradicting what the administration has already said. They have said the reason that they're ending these protections for Haitians and for Salvadorans specifically is that those countries are no longer basket cases and they can go back. Now, so you can't really
Well,
have
you're
it both
contradicting
ways.
yourself then. So if you say they shouldn't go back because they're so dangerous or so violent,
I'm
which is
saying-
a left position, you're saying they are
I don't have
basket
a left
cases.
position.
They're
They're-
supposed to be
both countries have a
temporary
lot.
protected status.
Both countries have a
Temporary
lot
means
of problems,
temporary.
and a lot of these people
There you
have lived here 10, 12, 17 years. They haven't caused trouble. They have jobs. So there's something really cruel about displacing them, and there's something really racist, and I will say it. And the backdrop to this that we have to look at is Donald Trump is speaking to his base because he's been catching hell from his base for the last
Would
2
you
days.
rather live in
Could you-
Norway or Haiti?
I didn't
Would you
actually
rather live in
interrupt you.
Norway or Haiti?
I don't know. I don't
You
know.
don't know?
I haven't
You don't
been to
know?
either place.
Aaron.
Oh, that's-
Why are
I
you
mean, to be
interrupting
honest,
me? Why
would
are you
rather-
interrupting me?
You can't answer that question.
It's none of your business,
Well, you won't
actually.
answer it.
It's not a
There you
matter
go.
of where you'd
Because
rather
Norway
live.
is a
It's a
better
matter
country.
of whether someone
Norway's a
from an
more advanced
individual
country.
place can be a productive,
He's getting
contributive
beaten up
member
by
of a
his base.
society.
Look,
Okay? Hold on,
our-
April. I hear you trying to get in. Let me you get into the conversation.
Yeah, let me say this. Former head of the RNC, the Republican National Committee, Michael Steele, said in the last couple of weeks, I talked to him, he said this White House is trying to control the browning of this nation. We are now actually seeing the majority of kids, babies being born in this nation that are brown. And you know, to hear this, it goes right back to that point. Michael Steele, Republican, former head of the RNC. And this plays to the base what the president said, because the president, during his campaigning, he talked about the other in terms of us versus them. And this is going right back to that. And you can play minutia, cultural politics with it all you want.
Yeah.
This is definitely a dividing statement, a moment of division. And you also go back to Charlottesville. We heard this when the president was vacillating back and forth. Both sides are wrong.
Right.
Both sides were
Both
not
sides
wrong.
have good people. Right.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I want to just read part of the statement that came from the White House where they did not deny the comments, because they say in part, like other nations that have merit-based immigration, that's referring to your point, Rich, President Trump is fighting for permanent solutions that make our country stronger by welcoming those who can contribute to our society, grow our economy, and assimilate into our great nation. Now, if you combine that with, as you say, S houses, he's basically saying if you're from an S house, you cannot contribute to American society or grow the economy. That's what they're saying.
Okay,
I just want to
right.
make that clear. That's what they're saying.
The level of education in these countries, the level of skills is not high. Not through any fault of the people who live there, right? They have broken political systems, they have broken economic systems, they have political strife, they have civil war. That is not good for the people living there. And like Canada and Australia, they emphasize merit. There's
White
nothing
nation,
racist
white
in that
nation.
policy.
They also
And
accept a lot more
if we have a
refugees
system
than we
like
accept
that,
who come
if
from
you
these
have a
exact
system like that,
war-torn
you'll have more
countries.
South Asians and East Asians. Is that wrong? Is there anything wrong with
Joe,
South Asians or
The
East
thing,
Asians?
the thing that I would agree with, I can hear April in my ear saying, yes, that is wrong. These are white nations, and this is a racially discriminatory approach to the
Yeah.
world. It's also wanting to cast out people who've made homes here and have done very well here because they happen to be brown. And finally, it's happening. Let's just face what he was dealing with today. 2 days ago, he made the mistake of saying he wanted to craft a bill of love on immigration. He would sign anything that they brought to him. He's been getting hammered in the right-wing media for the
That
last
wasn't a
2 days.
mistake.
Ann Coulter, Laura Ingraham, Mark Levin, they are going after him. This is him turning around. He's got the megaphone now, and he's shouting to his base, these are S-house hole countries. I hear you, and I'm not going to...
And we're going to take a pause here, and I just will make this point, to your point. The president knew full well when he said what he said in a room in front of the people that he said it, that this was going to get out, okay? He knew that. It's not like he didn't think this was going to leak out. Next, new reaction to the president's comments coming in live on Capitol Hill. We're getting reactions and waiting for GOP leadership. Plus, more breaking news, another bombshell. Trump is claiming tonight in an interview he has a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. Person he spoke to, our guest, going to give us the details there, and Trump's tweets, one contradicting the other today, almost sabotaging a national security policy his own administration strenuously backs.
And she says this, quote, "The president's comments are unkind, divisive, elitist, and fly in the face of our nation's values. The behavior is unacceptable from the leader of the nation." And Mia Love is calling on President Trump tonight to take back those comments, to apologize for those comments. And we're also hearing from Senator Hatch. He says that he looks forward to getting a more detailed description and explanation regarding the president's comments from him. So certainly a lot of questions for more among Republicans and some condemnation as well.
All right, thank you very much, Sunlin. Our panel is back. Joan, the first Republican that we heard for at least publicly was Orrin Hatch, and then Mia Love. Will we hear from Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy?
I hope so. I hope we do. I hope we hear from Lindsey Graham, who was apparently in the meeting himself. You know, the other backdrop to the meeting was that Lindsey Graham and Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat, ran into this meeting believing that they were going to have the Donald Trump that they had 2 days ago, crafting the Bill of Love and, you know, wanting to do something in a bipartisan fashion. And when they got there, they found Senator Tom Cotton, Congressman Goodlatte, who were much more hardline on immigration. So it was clear that the president had shifted. What they came to do was not going to get done. And then to make the point about it, he used this lovely expletive. So it really does signal, Aaron, a shift in him wanting to make a very public shift from the kinds of things he said and got a lot of praise for 2 days ago.
And April, that's an important point to make here, is that he knew this was a public forum. It's members of Congress. What happens in that room does not stay in that room.
Right, right. He wanted it to trickle out, again, to shore up his base. His poll numbers, depending upon who's giving the poll, 32, 35%, maybe 40%. I mean, he wants to shore up that base because this book did not do anything for his image. It made it worse. But I'm going to say something. I want to go back to your guest, the gentleman there who talked about the education of immigrants. I want to read something from the Center for American Progress, December 20th, 2012, 5 facts about black immigrants in the United States. And go down to fact number 3, because I want you to follow this with me. It says, number 3, black immigrants are one of the most educated immigrant groups. Black immigrants have more college education and higher rates of degree attainment than any other immigrant group in the United States of America. This is not feeling. This is fact from the Center for American Progress. So the problem is, a lot of times we get into these discussions and we start talking what I feel. People need to start dealing with fact before they go out there. And it's unfortunate that the American president who sets the tone, who is the moral leader, is starting this discussion and it's going the wrong way. And unfortunately, we have people on the panel who are speaking ill-informed about things about a group that he seems not to understand. There are a large portion of people who hail from or are descendants from these countries. I'm 5 generations removed from the last known slave in my family. And, you know, African Americans or Africans who were enslaved in America helped build this beautiful building that's the backdrop behind me, helped build a large portion of this country. And this is a slap in the face to minority America. That's why you're hearing from Cedric Richmond, the head of the Congressional Black Caucus, Elijah Cummings, a very esteemed senior congressional leader, Mia Love from Haiti. I mean, this is a very, very serious statement from the President of the United States of America.
Rich, what do you make of that when you look at that fact about college education? And again, putting in context that not only did the president say he didn't want people from those countries, but he also added he wanted more from Norway.
Well, again, I think he probably said Norway because he had a meeting.
Okay, I know you keep saying that, but if he had someone from Nigeria in the White House yesterday, you really think he would have said, I want more people from Nigeria?
We want immigrants with higher levels of education. And the fact is, we have a lot of immigration from Mexico and other Central American countries where these people are hardworking. but a lot of them don't even have high school degrees. And it's just very hard for them to succeed in a 21st century economy. And April, I'm happy to skim college graduates.
I need you to give me your facts when you say this. I need you to give me your facts when you say this. Back up your statements with facts, not what you feel.
That is a fact. That is a fact. I'm happy we can email about
tell me,
it afterwards.
No, I don't want to email. Tell me where you got it from. I don't want to email.
Let's talk about Mexico. You think most immigrants from Mexico have college degrees?
We're not talking Mexico.
She specifically said
but the
We're not
point
talking
is
Mexico.
we need to shift our immigration system to put an emphasis on skills that is not there currently.
And you're causing more problems.
You said that the president would have been happy to say that because the Nigerians. Hold on. Let me ask you this question.
Paris, fix that comment. That's wrong. The president.
April said.
What did you say?
Okay, he was specifically referencing Black and Hispanic countries. Those are the ones that were specifically referenced. Paris first, factually. Secondly, I was referring to April when she was referring to Black education. But I want to ask you about something you said, because you said the president would have happily said, I want more Nigerians, if that was the president who happened to be in the Oval Office yesterday, instead of the president of Norway. I just want to remind you that the president reportedly said Nigerian immigrants would never go back to their huts in Africa. That's a report from the New York Times. He does deny it. But there were two sources in the room they said that said it. Are you still sure he would have said, I want more Nigerians?
If the president denied it, and he said he didn't say that, that's what I have to go on. But to this point, going back to April's issue about facts, what we're doing here, we have to be very careful. April went into this diatribe about all of the African countries. That is not what this alleged incident was about. The president allegedly responded to them asking about certain African countries.
First of all, I didn't go into a diatribe, Paris. Let's get it correct.
We don't.
Let's get it correct.
We don't know.
And you work for an educational institution of higher education. You should be able to throw facts back too, but you're not.
April, if you would be quiet and allow me to speak like I allowed you to speak, I will be able to do that.
God bless you.
So the point I'm trying to make.
Stop being delusional.
Making Joan and I look like
I want to play one thing the president said.
Why am I on the show if you won't let me speak?
You have had a chance to speak. You have had plenty of chance to speak.
No, you've cut me off multiple times.
And you haven't said anything.
I have interrupted you when I felt it was necessary, as it is my right and my job to do as the host of the program. I want to play something, Paris, that goes to the point you're making and give you a chance to use it if you can. This is the president talking about Indian students who also happen to be brown and why he wants them to come to the United States. Here he is. This is March 2016.
Go to Harvard, they're first in their class, and they're from India. They go back to India and they set up companies and they make a fortune and they employ lots of people and all of that. Many people want to stay in this country and they want to do that. I think somebody that goes through years of college in this country, we shouldn't kick them out the day they graduate, which we do.
Joan, to the point that Rich and Paris are trying to make, is it possible he's making a socioeconomic today?
I don't think so with these particular statements. I know that he's said that in the past about Indian immigrants. I think that we could have a long discussion about race in America, but there has been a kind of special carve-out for Indian Americans and Asians more generally, and somewhat more comfort. They still face racism, but when we have these discussions on immigration, they are perceived as bringing something to the party, whereas other groups, Nigerians, Haitians, are not. But I also come at this as someone who is the granddaughter of Irish immigrants, and Ireland was once considered a S-hole house, whatever, country. Irish were told they need not apply. Irish were looked at as the dregs of society. And so our ideas about people, they can start out cruel and they can change. What this president has done is really pull us backwards, not towards the Irish, but toward a mentality of looking at certain people as having little or no intrinsic worth and pitting us against each other. And these words today are ugly and racist.
All right, let's hit pause. Don't worry, we're going to come back. We're going to come back, all of you. I just want to hit pause for a moment. Much more on the breaking news ahead, plus another breaking story. President Trump hinting at having contact with Kim Jong-un in a new interview. What specifically is he talking about? And the White House denying a huge problem today, chaos created by the president's confusing tweets among his own party. All right, my panel is back. And Rich, let me start with you. We have a new comment here breaking, just coming in from Senator James Lankford, Republican, Oklahoma, about the president saying, quote, if these comments are accurate, they are disappointing. I would not talk about nations like this because I believe the people of those countries are made in the image of God and have worth and human dignity.
Yeah, I think you'll hear more of that. You'll hear Paul Ryan say something similar, probably Mitch McConnell. But we've been through so many controversies like this. They're all consuming for 36 hours. No one can talk about anything else. Republicans condemn them. Everyone's like, how can he escape from this one? And it's always on to the next thing. And I have to say, Aaron, the clip you played from him talking about Indians, I think would be a pretty conclusive evidence that what he's talking about is emphasizing skills. And I don't know how it's racist possibly to say Indian college graduates should come here and stay here. And if you have a point system, no one is suggesting there be a racial element to the point system. If you're a college graduate from Haiti, you're going to have a good chance of coming in. If you're a college graduate from India, you're going to have a good chance from coming in. College graduate from Norway.
Are you, though, questioning what is a basic premise of the United States, which is no matter who you are, you can come here and become great. No matter how small you are, no matter how little you have in an intellectual background or anything, that you can become great. We suddenly say, you know what? If you're from a country that wasn't able to give you that, forget you. Is that American?
We've never been a country that is one that had totally open borders. And if you look at the history of...
We're not talking about totally open borders. We're talking about allowing some people from certain countries to come here.
If you look at the history of immigration policy, it's ebbed and flows. There have been times very high levels. There have been times very low levels. And we've been at a fairly high level for a very long time now. And it's a system that's basically created in the mid-20th century. We're in a different time now. So I think it behooves us to look at the successful systems, places like Canada and Australia, which aren't racist, closed societies, but emphasize skills so they can have people come into their country and succeed. And that's what we should. Doesn't mean we still should have refugee programs. We should still have some element of family reunification. Those are people who won't necessarily have skills. You're more tired and
although, of
poor.
course, the president said he's against chain migration, which is what you're referring to.
You're still going to have some, no matter what.
So let me ask you, April. This goes to the point of whether the president is defeating any point that could be in his own message by the way that he is saying it. Okay, the conversation started with Dick Durbin on people with temporary protected status. Okay, certain countries get designated this because of a natural disaster or a war, and it enables them to become easier to come to the United States. Okay, so they're talking about whether some of that needs to be reconsidered. As an example I will pick out of a hat, Nicaragua, designated in 1999 because of a hurricane. Hurricane Mitch devastated the country. The government is now saying homes have been rebuilt, conditions have been stabilized. That was 1999. That was a long time ago. You could look at that and say maybe there is an argument that we need to reconsider some of these things. But does the president lose any high ground that he had in having that conversation by saying what he said today?
Yeah, he does, because when this conversation began, he said he was going to do this in love. And, you have so many immigrant people, immigrant families here who were scared of the pain when this president was elected because they knew that he could possibly start sending some of their family members back home. So if I were to have been called on a couple of days ago, I was going to ask, talk about the love. But right now, the love seems to be missing. It seems to be more division. But I'm going to go back to a point that you made, and I think about the immigrants from Haiti versus the immigrants from Cuba. There's always been a different scenario in this nation when it comes to Haitian immigrants, how they're sent back when others are allowed to stay. Now, Haiti is one of the poorest nations in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah. Now, at the same time, when you think of this, they suffered a devastating earthquake several years ago during the Obama administration, and now this president is talking
the anniversary, I believe, is tomorrow, 2010, the earthquake. And then hundreds of thousands died.
And now they're talking about sending them back, and they're still trying to rebuild. And then also tomorrow, this White House is going to celebrate MLK Day. It's interesting, and then MLK Day is Monday. And I just think about the inconsistencies of what this president says, the love, and then you also think with immigration, then you think about the Muslim ban. That was mostly Muslim nations. Again, it goes back to the other, which he rose to this office with his base from. So it's racially tinged. And, if the president doesn't see that something is wrong, the empathy is not there with this president.
Paris, the president, to the point that April just raised about what he had said before about Muslims, has said things before about blacks, about Muslims, about Mexicans. Here he is.
Either you vote for me or you don't vote for me. I really want to be your greatest champion, and I will be your champion. I'm running to represent Haitian Americans and African Americans and Asian Americans and everyone who lawfully resides at our borders.
I'm going to play that soundbite in a moment, Paris. I'm sorry, so let me hit pause on that, Joan. Let me give...
Their best. They're bringing drugs.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Joan. Does that change what he said, or does it show that he didn't mean what he said today either? I mean, well, I love Haitians, he said there.
Another thing, part of the reason he loves Haitians, he shows it. He's got Haitians working at all of his properties, particularly at Mar-a-Lago. The Washington Post has done reporting on the number of Haitians and the number of all the foreign workers that he has and that he advocates to have, rather than employ America, make America great again by employing native workers. He has a lot of foreign workers. I don't know if he loves or he hates Haitians, but I think, to get back to Rich's point, there's a difference between our immigration policy going forward, and we can debate it. I'm not saying we would agree on a lot, but we would agree on some things. What's happening here with the Haitians and with the Salvadorans is that he is talking about kicking people out of this country where they have lived for a decade or more. And that is what is heartless.
Protected status. I mean, they're here legally.
We're not talking about people can continue to come in from a Haitian earthquake that was, 12 years ago. It's that they want to start sending people home who've made their lives here. That strikes people as particularly cruel. And then we also notice they are black and brown.
So let me ask, Paris, the point to you that I want to play, and we started to play it there, we'll play it again now, what the president has said before, right? His track record on blacks, on Muslims, on Mexicans.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Look at my African-American over here. Look at him. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Paris, it is a pattern.
Well, I don't know what you heard that was negative or derogatory towards the black community in any of the clips that you just aired, but I will go back to one of the clips that you aired when the president talked about Haitian Americans specifically, and he ended it by saying that are here in this country legally. He was talking about Haitian Americans, and that's who he was referring to, and I think that's who the champion he wants to be for. Back to the point I was trying to make with April. First, let me say, April, I apologize for telling you or for asking you to be quiet. It's just frustrating when you don't get a chance to speak on a program, and you often get a lot of chance to speak. But my point that I was trying to make is nobody knows exactly what countries that the senators were talking about when they were referring to African countries, because they did specifically name some countries specifically, but we don't know which ones they are. It is a fact. April is right. There are many African countries who do send over the best and the brightest, who are very intelligent, who get into all the Ivy League schools and who get into very good HBCUs, but we do not know what African countries they were referring to, because there are some, unfortunately, that are not at the standard as others. And I think that's important. The last point I'm going to make is this. When you look at President Obama, and many people called him the deporter-in-chief because of the millions that he deported from this country, yes. Many of them were brown. Now, my point is simply this. No one got on the national news and said he was racist for doing that. And I think for having a strong, tough immigration stance on illegal immigration, or sending back people who, many of those that the president sent back were committing crimes, I think it was 90-some-odd%, he was never labeled racist for doing so.
But if Barack Obama had said shithole, if Barack Obama had said that, he would have been called out. If Barack Obama had said that, Paris, you know that, he would have been called out not only by the media, by the right, by the left, by everyone. We have never heard this.
There was no evidence of racism in Barack Obama's past toward Latino people.
Is he makes it a 30-70 issue the other way, because everyone's convinced that he's this hugely divisive figure who's interested in dividing us, rather than instituting an actual rational immigration policy that takes account of the circumstances of the country today.
All right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. Paris, enjoy having you. I do find it greatly ironic you use your talk time to complain about how you weren't able to talk. Thanks to all. Next, more breaking news. Trump, you are all done. Trump is making some stunning claims about his relationship with Kim Jong-un. Does he really have a relationship with the dictator? A personal one. It's a crucial question. And is President Trump's national security policy coming from Fox News?